Hey, President Trump. James Comey and John Brennan now under criminal investigation related to the Trump-Russia probe. Do you want to see these two guys behind bars?
Well, I know nothing about it other than what I read today, but I will tell you, I think they're very dishonest people. I think they're crooked as hell, and maybe they have to pay a price for that. I believe they are truly bad people and dishonest people. So whatever happens, happens.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. You heard that right. The hunters are now being hunted. That's right. James Comey, John Brennan, Clapper, and all their boys and girls thought they were going to undermine democracy in this country for 10 years, the last 10 years. The games are over. The FBI now launching a formal investigation into Comey and Brennan. I assume Clapper will be next, and the mainstream media is in full-on meltdown mode. Take a listen.
We predicted, you and I and others, that we were going to get to this moment. And the question is, what do we do? And the question of what we do is multifaceted. The first question is, what do we do? Do we retreat and hide in the corner? So I'm on TV today, not hiding in the corner. I'm not retreating. I'm saying I'm going to stand up and fight. And Donald Trump won't intimidate me by going back to this 2016 stuff. And that's one thing. But the other thing we've talked about is, what do large institutions do? You know, what do civil society groups do? What does the media do? And I am imploring, like, honestly, I'm just imploring the media, do not report this as a legitimate investigation. Do not report this as they're opening a investigation into John Brennan. We will see where it goes. Report this as the misuse, the abuse, the authoritarian takeover of the Department of Justice. That should be the headline. The headline should be, in a misuse and abuse of the power of the executive branch, Donald Trump has asked his Department of Justice to open a bogus investigation into John Brennan.
Of misuse and abuse of the Department of Justice? Where has this idiot been for the last 10 years? If he hasn't been around for the last 10 years, how about the last year and a half? Donald Trump in and out of courtroom, in and out of fingerprinting and mugshotting? Are you kidding me? House raided, wife's closet raided. That wasn't a misuse or abuse of a Justice Department? Really? How about the fake Russia collusion hoax that they ran with for years, the Marxist Dems? We've got a little montage for you, just in case you forgot about what the Democrat stooges have done to this country for the last 10 years with their Russia collusion bullshit.
Direct evidence of collusion.
I don't want to go into specifics, but I will say that there is evidence that is not circumstantial.
There is circumstantial evidence of collusion. There is circumstantial evidence, certainly, of collusion or coordination. There's also abundant circumstantial evidence.
All you have right now is a circumstantial case.
Actually, no, Chuck. I can tell you that the case is more than that.
And circumstantial evidence can be very powerful and is hard evidence. We're also looking at persistent allegations that the Russians have been laundering money through the Trump organization. I don't know that that's true. The president once said, the Saudis are spending tens of millions of dollars on my Trump towers and buying apartments from me. Why wouldn't I love the Saudis? Why wouldn't I love them? Okay, so they murder journalists, but please, they buy apartments from me.
Members of that same campaign now in office said, hey, Russians, don't do anything about this. We'll take care of you because we were doing this together. Obviously, that could be part of a broad conspiracy.
Do you believe the President of the United States is a Russian asset?
He is acting like a person who is compromised.
The biggest news from Robert Mueller so far is that there are no new indictments for that underlying any cooperation with conspiracy with the Russians to interfere in our elections.
And so what happened on that call? The president communicates to his Ukrainian counterpart that the United States has done a lot for Ukraine. No other country has done as much as we have. But you know what? I don't see much reciprocity here. But there's not much reciprocity here. I hear what you want. I have a favor I want from you. What have you done for us? We've done so much for you, but there's not much reciprocity. I have a favor I want to ask you. And I'm going to say this only 7 times, so you better listen good. Of course, the favor is to investigate his political rival.
That was just Adam Schiff, you know, their biggest pawn, their biggest donkey, their biggest idiot who went out on the main stage wherever he could catch some airtime. But what about DNI Clapper? James Clapper, who's not yet under investigation, but I think will probably be soon thereafter. back with Anderson Cooper on CNN talking about pretty much staging a coup to overthrow Donald Trump's presidency.
And oversaw the launch of the Russia investigation. What do you make of this?
Well, actually, I'm very curious, since presumably I guess I'm one of those under investigation. And
you just heard about this?
Yes, I just read the clip on about 20 minutes ago. I found the timing interesting, given the increasing heat around the impeachment inquiry. And so the timing's interesting. I'll just let it go at that. And the other thing I wonder about is whether we're talking about the overall investigation of the Russian, reporting on the Russian interference, or are we talking about the counterintelligence investigation that was launched in July by the FBI about potential engagement and collusion, whatever you want to call it, between the Russians and the Trump campaign? So,
do you think? What do you think?
Curious about what is the alleged criminal activity that prompted this?
Do you have any idea, what they might think may rise to the level of a criminal offense?
No, I don't. That's obviously an item of great interest to me. What is it that any of us did that would rise the level of a criminal infraction? Well, and I just don't know.
He doesn't know. Another man who's lost is the very man who's under investigation himself right now, John Brennan. Take a listen to him last night on CNN.
Presumably, if there is an investigation, that people will be questioned. I would be questioned about it. But again, I've had no contact from them. But again, I testified in front of many, many congressional committees in the House and the Senate over the years. And I continue to explain exactly what we did during this process, why we tried to make sure we stayed true to our intelligence responsibilities, and that we were not going to do anything at all to try to interfere in that election. And again, it was a challenging time, but also one, I think, that the people who actually worked this, both in terms of trying to collect intelligence prior to the election, and then the ones who put together the intelligence community assessment, they really, I think, showed the best of what the intelligence community and what CIA is made of. So, again, I am clueless about what it is exactly that they may be investigating me for.
Once again, where do these people come from? Where have they been for the last 10 years? These evil, maniacal people. John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey, all of them, Susan Rice, they all need to be under investigation. The hunters who once hunted for things that were not there now need to be hunted. Games are over. Americans are tired of it. We're all tired of it. Donald Trump is tired of it. His family's tired of it. Everyone who's went through their hell and back for their hoax. Bunch of total nonsense. Donald Trump, he's not worrying about this. He's focused. He's focused on the economy, which, by the way, we've got some new numbers out for you. Not to change the subject, but the United States, has already brought in over $100 billion in tariff revenue this year. They're estimating it'll be over $300 billion for the entire year. And the CBO is estimating over $2.8 trillion over the next 10 years. Take a listen to President Trump in his cabinet meeting just yesterday.
Thank you for taking our questions, Mr. President.
Okay.
You talked about the amount of external revenue the country has brought in thanks to your tariffs. Can you talk about how these hundreds of billions of dollars that are getting brought in will help grow the country, and what do you hope to put it towards?
Well, bigger than the tariffs actually are the fact that when you charge the tariffs at a certain point, they say, well, we can't pay those tariffs. It doesn't make economic sense. These are wealthy countries, and they or their companies will come into our country and build, and that's what's actually happening. If you had a very low tariff, there'd be no incentive to do that. If you have no tariff like we used to have, which is so stupid, it's not even believable, but then obviously they make their product, the product in their country. They have the jobs, they have the income, they have the taxes, they have everything, and they just send it into us, and it's jobs that we wouldn't get. Now the wheel is turned, and what we're doing is more important, we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, money that we've never seen before. But more important than that, we have a lot of people that would rather not have to pay that. So they're coming in and they're building plants. AI, I mean, we're leading everybody, including China, by a lot with AI. They're building their own plant. You heard me say yesterday, they're building their own electric generating plants to go along with the factories or plants that they're building. If they want to do that, we're getting them fast approvals, very fast turnarounds. They're using mostly natural gas to start off, but they're using coal. They have the right to use coal. They have the right to use nuclear. Nuclear has come a long way in the last 5 years. So we're getting them very fast approvals. We have factories and plants building at a level that we've never had in this country before.
The economy is humming, and it's all thanks to Donald Trump and his very, very smart cabinet of people, one of them being Scott Bessent.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. We will have taken in about $100 billion in tariff income thus far this year, and that's with the tariffs, the major tariffs not having started till the second quarter. So we could expect that could be well over $300 billion by the end of the year. We don't agree with CBO scoring, but for those who do, the CBO scored tariff income over the next 10 years at $2.8 trillion, which we think is probably low. And, sir, under your leadership, we're witnessing.
And they gave us no credit during this last little, the great, big, beautiful bill. I always use the word great. I add that to it because it really is what it is. It's never been anything like it, actually. And I want to thank all the Republicans that voted for it. And I want to, scold the Democrats because they're voting for tax cuts. They're voting for no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, and many, many other things far more important than that. Great health care.
If that wasn't enough for you and you're not sold yet on the America First Trump agenda, American-born workers, it's new reporting out from job numbers, American-born workers gained 2 million jobs since January. You don't even want to know how many non-foreign workers lost jobs, 500,000. Foreign-born, 550,000. So Americans are booming. The economy is booming. And Donald Trump has us well on our way to this golden age. And this is all the while Joe Biden's former doctor, Dr. O'Connor, was on Capitol Hill yesterday, and he pled the fifth in a 20-minute interview 16 times, just under about a fifth of a minute. What does he have to hide? What is he hiding? We all want to know. We want to know what's going on. James Comer's getting ready now, the House Oversight Chairman Comer, getting ready to take the next steps in what will be subpoenaing him to get some answers on just what the public should know about what went on during the Biden administration. The public right to know, and we want to know. Folks, our guest today, after the other side of this quick break, is going to be our good friend of the show, leading pollster in the nation, Robert Trafalgar. I call him Robert Trafalgar. His name's Robert Cahaly of the Trafalgar Group. I call him Robert Trafalgar. Robert Cahaly joins us on the other side of this quick break with some very, very big news on what he's working on to keep polling honest in this country and what he's going to do to ensure that happens. Stay with us, folks. We're coming right back on the other side of this quick break. The Great America Show is just getting started.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Robert Cahaly, it's a delight to have you back on the Great America Show. Let's start with first everything that's going on in the world right now. It seems each day that goes by, the news cycle just gets crazier and crazier and crazier. You had the fallout with Elon Musk. You had the bombings in Iran. You've got the war with Iran. You've got Russia ramping up a war with Ukraine. I mean, you go down the list. And then this week we find out from the Department of Justice that the Epstein case is closed and go on about your days. What's going on in the world, in America? Your take on it all, Robert.
Well, I think what's really funny is that when you listen to the news now, every single story comes back to Trump. And I don't think we're used to having this kind of an information overload. I mean, part of it is just that there's so much built-in media bias against him, but part of it is he's so active as a president. There's so many things going on at one time. I mean, his different departments are always making major changes and making news. And so all this stuff happens at once. And I think that's what is troubling a lot of people about the Epstein stuff, because it seems kind of like the opposite momentum of the way that they're doing everything else.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So how does he clear this thing up? How does Donald Trump we see Rasmussen does their daily tracking of polls, who's now in your new organization we're going to talk about a great polling organization that I think is long overdue in this country that you're now a big part of. We're going to get to that. But Rasmussen does their daily tracking, and Donald Trump back in June, I think, was at a +8 in approval rating. He's now fallen to a -2 since mid-June. What are the voters stuck on? What do you think is the issue that's got them hung up on why his approval rating is taking a little bit of a hit?
Well, I think here's the thing. When you look at the quote unquote big beautiful bill, what that is it represents what you have to do when you have a very small, very, very small margin in the House and a small margin in the Senate. You have to pack a lot of things that you don't like into a bill to get it passed, and it will not be popular. I mean, it is a jagged little pill, as Lance Marseille would say. But the fact is, it was one that probably needed to be taken. And sometimes Congress has to take a vote on something that's not going to be popular. They know it's not going to be popular, but the parts of it and how it is enacted will be popular. And that's what, it gets overshadowed by all the other things that were in it and all the scare tactics. And so I think right now, a lot of this is residual people who are not happy about something in this massive omnibus bill. Not omnibus, but this massive bill.
Yeah, so you're thinking that's what the primarily what the blowback is for his approval rating right now is the big beautiful bill?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit on the Epstein stuff, but because people are still just confused, because this has been an administration that wants to open the files and get to the bottom of everything, and this just again seems to be very reverse from what they said on everything else, and that troubles people. But I think that in general, we saw this coming with this thing, and it was tough. It was going to be tough no matter how you look at it. When people tell me this, and we hear this all the time, I'm just like, hey, if you're Republican and you don't like it, get yourself a 300-member House, get yourself a 60-member Senate, and then you can pass a perfect, beautiful bill.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people don't realize is that's the majority. Now it's down to even less because Mark Green, Congressman Mark Green, left to go do whatever. I swear, I think these people get some sort of tip in their back pocket to slim this thing down. You remember, I think it was Mike Gallagher who went to go work for what is that AI tech company, Palantir, to go join their board. Left Congress, left them high and dry. It's like the Republicans. I was telling you this before the interview. It's always the Republicans' races to lose. They always find a way. The Democrats can do the dumbest things, and they do the dumbest things in the world imaginable. But the Republicans somehow always find a way to top them at stupidity.
Well, let me say this in case Palantir's listening. If you've got seats on the board, I'll quit all this nonsense.
Hey, me too.
I'm a stockholder in them, and I have a lot of confidence in those guys.
I think my father, Robert, to hurt your feelings, my father bought it back at around $12 and begged me to buy it. I said, I think I waited for like $110, and
I got the 60.
I'm jealous of you too. But go on. I mean, the Republicans, in my opinion, always find a way to screw something up.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that it's tough. I mean, it's tough right now, but I think in the end, part of why this, I mean, if the premise is they find a way to screw this up, well, what I think I saw the left doing is every time you turn on this bill, they were telling you what's bad about it.
Yeah.
Where were the commercials telling people who are working hourly jobs and getting tips, telling people who working overtime jobs, this is going to increase your tax? Where was the benefits of this bill being pushed with the same enthusiasm that the detrimental things about this bill were being pushed? I mean, that's what bothers me, is like, where was the counter messaging? We saw it when people were interviewed, but the left doesn't wait for just interviews. They put this stuff out. They're sending out texts. They're running TV ads, and the right is just basically circling the wagons and saying we'll survive.
Yep, and the Republicans are the ones who have the money, Robert. Let's go through some numbers here that we just got yesterday out of the Senate leadership. The Senate GOP's top super PAC and affiliates have more than doubled their fundraising records for the first half of the year, bringing in $85 million, Robert, $85 million. The Senate Leadership Fund, affiliated with One Nation, have raised over $85 million since the start of the year, far more than the $38 million they raised over the same period in 2023. Together, they have $83 million cash on hand. The Senate Leadership Fund has $29 million alone on hand. That is 3 times as much as they had in 2023, 5 times as much as they had in 2021. Where was the messaging in this bill? They could have spent millions of dollars on television, or I'm not even sold on television anymore. I got to be honest with you, Robert. On digital media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Truth, wherever you've got to do it, on podcasts, on the, send us out rundowns on this is what it is, which they did after the fact, but do it before the fact. This is the key points in it. It's 1,000 pages. We're not reading the whole thing. They hadn't done any of that, and somehow these people are raising records amount of money. Who the heck knows where it's going? It's probably going to fund someone like Lindsey Graham for Senate in South Carolina.
Well, being from South Carolina, I haven't really seen that kind of activity. But I'll tell you what I did see. I saw a lot of people being told their money was going to help win Senate races. Like the vice, the current vice president's Senate race, and like the ones in Iowa and Utah, and the money found its way to Lisa Murkowski, who was in a race with another conservative. The Senate should have literally just stayed out of that. Imagine if you don't have to make the special deals with Lisa Murkowski because you got Chewbacca in that Senate seat. So, I mean, the problem is sometimes those funds go to the favorites are played, and they don't get what they need to do. I mean, the biggest debacle was Larry Hogan. We pulled that thing 3 times. We know that was not real, and the amount of money poured into that hole was ridiculous.
Who's giving them this money, Robert? I wouldn't. If I had $1 trillion in the bank, I wouldn't give these guys 1 red cent. Who is giving them money knowing I forgot about that one. Larry Hogan, Lisa Murkowski. I think they'd maybe dump some money into Susan Collins's race up in Maine. I mean, who gives these people the money, and who makes the decision on where to spend it?
Well, the people who run it make the decision where to spend it. But who gives the money is a bunch of well-meaning donors who don't know what you just said. That's who gives the money. Donors are not are not always being treated honest. Now, I know there's some new leadership over at the Senate Leadership Fund, so it might be, but the fact is we don't know. We haven't seen him go through an expenditure cycle yet, so I think we'll know more about that in the future. I'm always optimistic that it'll be better, but the past wasn't so good.
No, you're right. We hadn't seen them go through a cycle yet, but what we did see was Mike Johnson and John Thune. Mike Johnson was a little bit better than John Thune, but John Thune was kind of silent on this big, beautiful bill. very lackadaisy, just hanging around. You had guys like Ted Cruz are out there championing it harder than your leader. Whereas you've got Chuck Schumer out on television every night doing whatever he's got to do, spewing whatever nonsense he's got to spew. Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, these people are extremely hyperbolic, the entire Democratic Party, whereas you just had a few Republicans and whatever. And then you've got the Republicans who you couldn't get on board, whatever. I understand that Rand Paul had his issues or, so on and so forth with the few that voted against it. But these people are not unified, in my opinion. And it seems to me right now it's that John Thune, I don't know if he has a grasp of leadership. Do you think?
Well, I can tell you what bothers me going back to the way that the Senate has been elected. When I see 4 states that Trump won and the Senate races were lost by just a few points, that tells me there's a problem. That the money was not spent the way it should have been. There was money that was not spent in Wisconsin. I mean, you look at how much money got poured into Montana. See, we weren't going to lose. That guy barely survived in 2018, which was a good year for the Democrats. If he barely survived in 2018, he's going down. Tester was going down. There was no question about it. Tons of money poured into that one as well. And yet these 4 races that really needed it, that really needed a boost, you just didn't see it. So when it's all said and done, besides the ones that were cakewalks, 1 Senate race, Pennsylvania, 1 out of 5 that were on the bubble. That's not good enough.
Yep. I mean, you could thank Mitch McConnell for that at the time. So, like you said, John Thune hasn't went through a cycle yet. We'll see how he does. Let's talk a little bit about the House side. Do you think – so it's taken Mike Johnson now January, February, March, April, May, June, July, 7 months to finally get his feet a little bit wet, to get a hold of things. It's like Trump had to kick him in his rear end to get the big, beautiful bill passed. They're finally now starting to codify some of President Trump's executive orders so that the next time we have a Marxist Democrat president, they can't come in and overturn everything he's done. Are you confident in Mike Johnson's leadership over on the House side?
I'll tell you this. I probably take a different approach on Mike Johnson. I think his personality and the fact that people and his intellect and the fact that he's not one who gets rattled too easy, it is a very hard job to herd those cats with that slim a majority. Yeah. And so I look at him and I'm thinking, I mean, in general, I am in shock that when that bill came back from the Senate, they managed to pass it through the House. I would say take your hat off to him. That's amazing, because I didn't think I was like, oh, God, there's no way they're going to pass it with the way the Senate changed it. And so I feel like he has a grasp over this membership where maybe he's got them aside and said, listen, guys, the old saying, we've got to hang together, we're going to hang separately. I mean, I think he has conveyed that message. It is hard to judge any speaker with a majority that small. But what I will tell you about him is he doesn't seem to be hated by any faction, and that's different. This is a guy who would have never won a speaker's race in the normal course of business. Yeah. It had to be this unique set of circumstances that put him there. And so I'm still feeling that he's herding these cats very well.
The problem that I see, Robert, when we were kids and we did something wrong, our parents didn't buy us a toy to tell us that we shouldn't do it again, right? They smacked the piss out of us. We maybe caught a belt. We maybe caught a shoe. We caught some sort of wooden spoon, whatever it was. And that was our wake-up call to that we shouldn't do it again. But with these Republicans, they get a gift. Lisa Murkowski was holding up the bill. She got a gift. So-and-so held up the bill. They got a gift. They got a promise. They got something. They got a leadership role. Doesn't that bring a big problem, Robert, that we're rewarding these people who are going against the party with gifts, with things, with reassurances? Isn't that like the exact opposite of what we're taught as children even?
But remember, where's the punishment? Where's the place you really make a senator feel punishment? It is when they're in a hot race and you ignore them. Right. And when she was in a hot race, did she get ignored? No. They put her back in there. This lady should have lost in 2022. And the fact they poured all that money into her has emboldened her to be a little brat who gets what she wants. I mean, that, in many ways, we have created a group of senators who think that acting out is the way to get more attention and get what you want. But if you want to, if the time to punish is when they're in a heated race. And if they do things that are bad, there ought to be an opponent to create that heated race.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I get a little blowback for saying this, but I don't care because I believe it to be true. What difference is it to have a rhino and a Democrat as senator? If you have a Democrat, at least you know the way they're going to vote. On strong Republican bills, Robert, you get a vote like 99-1, not obviously number 99-1, but metaphorically speaking, in the conference, you get a vote 99-1 on a strong Republican bill. On a bill that's down the middle, like the big beautiful bill that's controversial inside the party, the rhinos usually go the opposite way. So what difference does it make if when you need this person, they're a Democrat anyway?
To brass tacks, the only real reason you would want rhino over a Democrat is because there will be a vote at the beginning to decide who's the majority leader. And if you have the most party members, you get to be in the majority. And so that's the only reason. You need them that first day. And while we're talking about that, let me tell you something else that's very frustrating, that we will see a major change in the Senate if this was made. You know, we got to watch the House go through 15 votes in public to pick a speaker. So we all knew where every member stood and we could hold them accountable. When the Senate picks their leadership, it's a secret ballot vote. And that, I can promise you, you want to see things change, you make that not a secret ballot vote. The most important vote any senator makes is private. That is insane.
So what's the process on changing that, and how do we?
Well, the process is we make every candidate for Senate in their race pledge that they will make it an open vote.
I got one better for you. Why don't we go look at the biggest donors to the Senate Leadership Fund and demand that before the Senate gets another dollar, they do full transparency so we see where the American people are at, and we don't have to, like you said, wonder who voted for Rick Scott and who voted for John Thune or who voted for so-and-so.
And who voted for someone who might have run if it was an open vote. But the fact is, getting in front of those donors and telling them that is very difficult. It sounds easy, but it's not. Every one of those guys has got somebody who's in charge of hoodooing them and telling them exactly that everything is great. I mean, what is being done and the wool that is being pulled over the eyes of so many Republican donors is disgusting.
But yet somehow, Robert, they manage to pull in record amounts of money.
Right, because they're pulling the wool over their eyes. They're not telling the truth. These are everybody who writes these big checks, who puts their fortune on the line, is a patriot. And everybody who misuses them and abuses that money is a scoundrel.
You know, I did I guess it's probably about 2 months ago. Are you familiar with Ed Martin, who was the former acting D.C. U.S. attorney, big J6 advocate, and Tom Tillis, Senator Tom Tillis, Rhino Tom Tillis, came out and said he wouldn't support him because of his role in January 6th. He had no role in January 6th. He just agreed with that these people should have been pardoned, as did the majority of Republicans. So Tom Tillis comes out. So I try to figure out what's going on and string it together. I find out that Ed Martin is going big and going to look big into healthcare and big pharma and vaccines. So I go look at Tom Tillis and see where Tom Tillis is getting his money from. It turns out Tom Tillis is getting the majority of his money from healthcare industries, healthcare professionals, and big pharma. A little bit of a disconnect there. And now, lo and behold, we find out Tom Tillis is not going to run for re-election. We need to, I think, in my opinion, Robert, start holding these people's feet to the fire to make change, because otherwise you're not going to get any change, and it's just going to be business as usual.
Well, but think about this. In Tom Tillis's example, he bucked, and he knew he couldn't get reelected.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple. I mean, think about that. That was the guy who was headed for a reelection and, got derailed. So maybe you need a little more of what happened to Tom Tillis.
Yeah.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Speaking of change, you've got a new organization out that you launched with a bunch of honest pollsters, I guess we can say. It's called the National Association of Independent Pollsters. Tell us a little bit about it and what brought you to this point, this inception point, I guess you can say.
Well, I think what this group represents is the fact that a lot of us that are consistently being honest and also being accurate, we're frustrated with the fact that the mainstream media continues to reward these pollsters who get it wrong. I mean, if you look at the presidential approval ratings, even when they're down for Trump, the pollsters who have him the worst are all groups that have failed to get the elections right year in and year out. I mean, the way you measure how you are as a pollster is your cumulative error rate. How often, I mean, how far are you from right cycle after cycle? And we've had a solid 10 years we can look at now. And the fact is there's so many of these they're just not right. And they have a bad system. And what the frustrating thing for us is, that, again, there's no punishment. I mean, nobody says that worst 5 results year in and year out, average, they're still there.
Yeah.
They still survive. And there are so many other organizations promoting the bad ones. And so, we got together with big data, with Rich Barris and Rasmussen, with Ted and Mitch, and Mark Mitchell, and Insider Advantage with Matt Towery, my dear friend, and a Trafalgar group. We kind of came together one at a time and turned into a conference call. And leading into this July 4th weekend, we said, "Hey, we've got to do something different."
Yeah.
It's very frustrating. I look at the polling industry. I know this is going to sound strange, kind of like I look at the Cold War. The Soviets had a flawed system and flawed technology, and it was apparent after the space race. But it still took 20 years for them to crumble. And so we've already proven the other side has a flawed system and flawed technology, and we're just trying to hasten their crumbling. And the ones that get it right being rewarded. We're going to invite other polling firms and pollsters that are truly independent, who have a record of getting it right. And this is going to be an organization people can look to trust. We're not going to tell them how to poll because we recognize they do it right already. But we are going to share ideas and understanding and do like any organization should. I mean, there has to be a counter narrative and an organization for pollsters where we can come together and celebrate the fact that we're honest and we're trying to reflect the electorate, unlike so many of the pollsters that are trying to affect the electorate.
It's an absolutely brilliant. The other thing, I don't know if you said it, but I'm going to reiterate it. It's American-made pollsters that are here in America, not in other countries like Brazil. Not saying Atlas Intel is based in Brazil, but they're based in Brazil, and their founders got me blocked on Twitter right now. I don't know what I said to him, but I think I upset him something. I think I hit a sore spot. But that aside, I look at the pollster industry, Robert. You ever hear the I guess saying or phrase that the art industry is one of the largest money laundering operations in America because it's untraceable? I think the polling industry is now at the top of one of the largest money laundering operations in the world. You look at, Robert, you mentioned about getting it right. New York Times and Siena, who is constantly at the top on the 538 list or whatever list you look at, got some races wrong in 2020 by 10 points, 9 to 10 points. And somehow these people are regarded as the gold standard, according to Nate Silver or some of these other pollster organizations.
But that's because their ratings do not depend on error rate alone. They they use all kind of other nebulous things to add points and then subtract points. And what they consider transparency, what they consider methodology. I mean, there are pollsters out there who are using online panels and not even voters to do their polling. Now, what do we know about online panels? You've got to be weird enough to care about politics enough to constantly get polls. What do we know about average people? They don't like getting polls, and they sure aren't going to talk for 20 or 30 minutes. So, there's so much of these guys, what these guys do is flawed. What they do is just completely flawed. And so we need an organization that is going to recognize the ones who do it right. And there's no other way to measure than cumulative error rate. And when you look at them, you can throw out the bad ones easy as pie.
When you take a Scantron test, Mark, I called you Mark, Robert. When you take a Scantron test, when you take the SATs, it's either right or it's wrong, and your grade is dependent upon that. Not if you thought it was maybe B, but you chose C, we'll take the error and you get half credit. It doesn't work like that. You're either right or you're wrong, and it's a matter of how wrong you are. And I think there's a very big line between being wrong and being evil. And you give me your sense on this. I don't think these people are wrong on accident, Robert.
Well, let me put it to you this way. It is frustrating for those of us who are polling and who are obviously, a Republican. They say, well, you're a Republican, so your polls must be skewed to the right. But at the same time, okay, well, you're from a news organization that skews left. You're from a university that skews left. But we have to accept that your polls are right down the middle. Why don't we judge us not based on that, but based on the error rate? And then look, when your error rate is constantly off and way off, and it seems in so many races like they're trying to create a narrative. Yes. I think sometimes there's some fingers on the scale. There's no question that you see a little bit of this, and I think it gets worse the more they get away with it. There is no punishment. All these news outlets continue to run that. I say all the time, if the group that put out the presidential approval has failed at elections, you can ignore it. Just look at the rate from the people who get it right.
Yep. And there's so much money in this business. I don't mean to out you, Robert, that you're rich, but polling is not. I'm just being facetious. But the guys at Atlas Intel are not exactly living in a dungeon somewhere. Polling is not cheap. It could run people a lot of money, and there's people who run polls a lot. So what is the point of paying a pollster, Robert, in a race, if I'm running for Congress, to give me fake results where at the end of the day, the people know it's bullshit?
Well, first of all, the internal polls are usually a lot more accurate than the ones that are public. Because, again, sometimes the public polls are meant to affect the electorate, not reflect the electorate.
Right.
And so getting good data is very, very important. And it is valuable. And it is worth it because, I think one of the things we have on one of our little tokens we give out as a poker chip is that there's nothing more expensive than bad information.
Yeah.
And so it's like you should spend a poll for good information. But the fact is, I think there are people who are funding things that are designed to skew what is really going on. And I think there's no greater example of that than what happened in Iowa. I mean, we saw that, but look at that, and I always heard, oh, it's such an immaculate record. And I'm like, well, last time I checked, she got the Iowa caucuses wrong with Trump.
Yeah.
And she got it wrong in 2012. And even this time, she had Nikki Haley in the second when Nikki Haley finished third. We were the only ones who saw that coming. But the fact is, so she wasn't that so accurate to begin with. But we saw what happened, and it was like almost like she's going out, and for her sake, I hope she got a big payday. But the fact is, so many. I mean, you look at the top quote unquote polling averages, but skewed even more toward Kamala Harris at that moment. Now they'll lie about it now, but they were all saying Kamala Harris is more likely to win than lose, and it really wasn't that close.
No, she got absolutely annihilated. She lost the popular vote, which the Democrats told us that was the gold standard, Robert. In 2016, when Trump lost the popular vote, it was the gold standard. We're getting rid of, and then they want to get rid of the Electoral College.
But what about 1992 when he got 43% of the vote? What was the gold standard then?
Right. So it's like,
I think that's because Ross Perot was talking about the gold standard.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We may find ourselves, we better not laugh about it. We may find ourselves in another type Ross Perot type situation come 2028 if Elon Musk keeps up his childish behavior. But it's to me, it's such a crazy industry, Robert.
I think Musk is frustrated. I mean, here's the thing. He is in business. He is used to coming in, doing what's right and not and pushing an agenda and getting things done. Look what he did at Twitter. He came there, took over, and he changed it. And so for him to look and see all the great work he did and to see all the dirty, nasty compromises it took to get the big, beautiful bill passed, that has got to be frustrating for a business guy, because we know it was frustrating for Trump when he got there. It is an adjustment for business people to understand that the best does not survive in politics. You've got to get by with something that is less than what you want.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% that's probably a big part of why he's upset. I think probably the electric vehicle subsidy is probably another reason why he's so upset. But he knew what it was when he came in there. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree. But there also is a way, and there's some decorum about going about how you air out your frustration. It's not going to Twitter and saying Donald Trump is on the Epstein list or whatever the other things he had said was. There's a way about doing it. And Donald Trump, Robert, is not a man who's completely set one way or another. Like, people get this interpretation about him that it's his way or the highway. He's a very malleable person. If you come to him with some sort of rationale, some sort of plan, he's not going to tell you to get lost. He'll listen to what it is. So that's the.
No, I think that is one of the strengths of a leader is that he doesn't just say, here's what I want to do. And this is, he is open. You make an argument, is willing to listen, hear an argument, and change his mind, and look at the facts. And you see so many of these people who can't hear information and make decisions. And I look at the thing with him. I mean, listen, I'm from South Carolina. I've watched Donald Trump and Lindsey Graham have fights and come back together, and have fights come back together. And I said then that they kind of fight like brothers. Sometimes it's a little nastier than it needs to be, but don't try to come between them. And I think in the end, you'll probably see the same thing with Musk. These guys have a relationship. They're very close. And so when they get mad, they probably get a little madder than they should. But I wouldn't write down that those guys aren't going to be tight again one day.
Yeah, as long as Donald Trump accepts his apology, we'll see. We'll see if he decides to. But no, I can't tell you how many times I've been around Donald Trump, Robert, where I'd say it's actually the majority. The times I've been around with him privately in a room with Lou, with other people, I've heard other people around him speak more than he's speak. I think privately with Donald Trump, I've maybe heard him speak less than 100 words. I'm sure you've had the same experience. He sits, he listens, and comes to a conclusion. He doesn't pretend like he knows everything, because truly none of us really do know everything. And Lou Dobbs used to remind me of that all the time. He used to tell me, the worst thing about being a 30-year-old who knows everything and thinks they're a finished product. And I'd go back at him and I'd say, you know what the worst thing is, Lou, is a 78-year-old man who thinks he's a finished product. And we'd get to laughing about it. But it's true. So hopefully, things start to shape up here. Donald Trump and Elon Musk take the summer apart. They go their merry ways. They enjoy vacations out of each other. And come September, things start to come back together as we look towards winning the midterms. Before we wrap up, I want to get your sense, and you always get the last word. Your sense looking forward for the country, for this organization, for the midterms. The floor is yours.
I think, the midterms to me, and I've given a few speeches on this already in the last few months, the midterms are going to be decided by the economy. When the impact this bill comes and the impact of whatever the finished product is on the tariffs, the economy of the fall of 2026 is going to be demonstrative of everything that is happening now. And if that continues to be a growing economy and employment tends to be up and prices, gas prices, everything tends to be down, then I think that the Republicans have an excellent shot of expanding their lead in the House and picking up a couple Senate seats. But if the economy does not turn the right way, I think it's not going to look so good. And so it's going to be very problematic. I don't think there's many scenarios where the Republicans lose the Senate, but there are a lot of scenarios where the Republicans lose the House. But, it's always tough when Trump is not on the ballot. It is a different turnout mechanism. Exactly. There's no question about it. But at the same time, we saw him on the ballot in those 4 Senate races, and they didn't win. So him being on the ballot is not enough. But there's got to be the infrastructure. And I really hope that we're going to see a better effort out of the people who have taken over the Senate Leadership Fund to focus on winning the right races and spend the money properly. And I think there's a good chance that it could be a great year. But it really does depend on the economy and the fallout from everything that's happening now. But the key is what we are going to have is Trump's vision of tax cuts and of tariffs. And so if Trump's vision is economically successful, then I think he'll be a very successful midterm president.
To your point, Robert, to anyone who's listening who's on the fence, who's maybe mad at Donald Trump for the big, beautiful bill, or mad at Donald Trump for not cutting enough, or mad at Donald Trump for the Epstein files, and say you're done with the Republican Party because tensions are high right now, I just ask you to think about one thing. Think about AOC or Jasmine Crockett heading up a committee and how dangerous and scary that'll be. Just think about it for a second when you guys go to vote. I know it's a little ways away, but just think about that thought. Robert Cahaly, a great American, Trafalgar Group. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and we wish you the best of luck with the National Association of Independent Pollsters. Come back soon, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for being with us today here on The Great America Show. We hope to see you back here tomorrow for The Great America Show, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. Same time, same place tomorrow. Meet me here. I'll see you there. Have a good night, everybody. Until then, may God bless you. May God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. We'll see you tomorrow.